Everybody. I'm very excited to give this webinar today. We're going to be talking about Oracle's Intelligent Performance Management. Represents a portfolio of AI capabilities built in EPM. Now, we've been actively working with clients since 2021, way before ChatGPT, to implement IPM. Today's webinar is going to be a little bit different. In the past webinars that I've given on IPM, I've been focused on describing how our machine learning models performed relative to a submitted financial plan. And as I said before, our machine learning models do a fantastic job at predicting the financial future of a company. In many cases, 9 times out of 10, we do a better job with our machine learning models. But then I spent a little bit of time on the remaining aspects of the AI embedded capabilities. Today, what I'm going to do is demonstrate all the AI capabilities embedded in IPM by showing you how to integrate those capabilities directly into the activity in financial planning. And the use case that we're going to use is in the evaluation of submitted financial plan. So I'm going to take you through every single one of those activities, and I'm going to leverage every single activity embedded in Oracle's out-of-the-box AI capabilities. So from an agenda perspective, we're going to start with an overview of the Hackett value proposition. We'll talk about some of the work that we've done with clients across the world and our benchmarks. And then going to go into a discussion about some of the drawbacks and challenges faced by FP&A teams. This slide is going to resonate with anybody involved with FP&A, and they'll appreciate some of these challenges. In the next section, I'm going to talk about defining what IPM is, specifically the capabilities that are embedded in Oracle EPM and how that drives value within the FP&A organization. The most part of the presentation will be spent on the demonstration. Here, as I mentioned before, we're going to use the use case of evaluating a submitted financial plan, and we're going to go show you how we've integrated all those AI capabilities within each activity of that evaluation of a financial plan. And then finally, I'm going to go through a roadmap that takes you from not using IPM and all the AI fantastic capabilities to having a fully integrated AI FP&A organization. But before I start, let me tell you a little bit about my background. I spent 25 years in FP&A in a variety of positions. My last position was leading the global financial planning team at Nike. So I have a tremendous amount of functional experience, but for the last 15 years, I've been focused on leveraging Oracle's EPM environment to improve the efficiency of an FP&A team. And specifically, in the last 4 years, I've been focused exclusively on IPM, how we can embed artificial intelligence in the FP&A function and drive value. So before we get going, let's talk about how Hackett is different from anybody else involved with financial transformation. At the core of everything we do is our market-leading data and intellectual property. From the very beginning of every engagement, whether it be the submission of an opportunity for us, an implementation, a design, whatever it is that we're doing on a project level basis, we take all this intellectual property and knowledge and benchmarks and integrate that into every engagement. And in this case, you're going to see where we've done that. We have a massive amount of research, over 57,000 performance metrics. We've done over 550 process maps, and we've conducted over 27,000 benchmark studies. If you look on the right-hand side of the grid slide, we have what we call the value grid, Hackett value grid. What we do with our clients is we map them against 2 axes: business value of that FP&A team and operational excellence. And what you're going to find is that people who embrace digital world-class perform better than any of the other their peers as it relates to the ability to drive shareholder value, drive employee productivity, and customer satisfaction. And the tools that I'm going to show you today will demonstrate how an FP&A team can achieve each one of those opportunities. Next slide. So What does it look like to be digitally world-class? What are some of the characteristics that a digital world-class performer has? Number one, they spend more time analyzing data and assisting operations individuals with evaluating decisions from an economic perspective. They spend less time analyzing and collecting data and adding value through decision making. They are 42% more likely to be perceived as a value contributor in the organization. When you free up all the time associated with doing financial planning by leveraging these technology capabilities, you're going to be able to drive value throughout the organization. And oh, by the way, 2 times more likely to have an enterprise online budgeting system, which is what we're going to talk about today. From an operational excellence perspective, you're going to find that digitally world-class performers have spent a lot less money performing the activities they're doing. 40%, 46% lower cost as a percentage of revenue. The amount of time it takes them to do an activity in the business is dramatically less. So today, what I'm going to talk about is FP&A. We're going to show you how you can reduce the cycle time of evaluating a financial plan submitted from the business in a much less time than you typically do. And then as it relates to business process automation, when you leverage these AI capabilities, you're going to find that this creates a lot of capacity. Moving on. This slide is going to be familiar to everybody on the call. There has not been any innovation in financial planning for the past 50 years. Many of the things that we do today in financial planning have been done for over 50 years, starting in the 50s with General Motors. The slide here shows a typical time frame to deliver a budget. Large companies like Nike, when I was involved with them, we'd start our budgeting process in May. We start with setting targets, sending those targets in June to the strategic business units. Those business units would spend time with a bottomless planning process and getting consensus across the board in all the regions of the world. Those regions would then roll up to the significant regions like EMEA or Asia or North America and roll up all their numbers in spreadsheets to a large degree, and they get agreement at that level. And then from there, they get an agreement at the corporate level. That process, that 6 months process, takes a long time. It involves a lot of repeated loops of approval. You're going to see on the right-hand side, there are a lot of people involved in developing these budgets, leveraging traditional practices. Millions of dollars are spent on a daily basis, or not on the annual planning process. And by the way, there's also gaming. When we rolled up the financial plan at Nike, by the time I got to the top of the house, the FP&A corporate level, we couldn't believe any number. And so what we're going to talk about today is how we transform from this traditional way of doing things into a more modern and leveraging AI capabilities. So let's start off with a polling question. How many calendar days are necessary to create your company's annual budget? And you have the options here. Now, we typically have music at this time, but I guess we don't this time. Mitch, how are we doing on the answers? Are they coming through?
Coming through, we're about 81% answered so far.
Awesome. Awesome.
One more second here.
Okay, the results. The highest percentage is 23%, 90 to 120 days. That's a significant amount of time spent developing your budget. We also have 70% at 120 to 150 days. So what this shows us is this huge amount of opportunities to find ways to reduce the cycle time in delivering a financial plan. Okay, we've talked about the challenges that as it relates to delivering a financial plan. Let's begin talking about how we can drive value by reducing that and leveraging artificial intelligence. So from our perspective, in order to have a successful AI implementation, there are three pillars. Number one, you need the technology. Number two, you have to have a vision for how to apply that technology. And finally, your methodology has to be refined so that when we come in and do an implementation, you're going to get immediate results. Now, with Oracle IPM, what you'll find is it's a comprehensive suite of AI capabilities. I'm going to show you that a little bit later. It is cutting edge, world-class, arguably the best in the FP&A industry across the board. So what we have done, because we've been implementing these AI capabilities over a number of years, is we have a vision on how to take that academic technology capability and implement it into a process. And that is the heart of this presentation. It's going to be pretty quick. I'm going to do that in 30 minutes. Usually takes an hour to show people that, but we're going to demonstrate where we've seen the value of implementing each one of those capabilities into each activity to evaluate a financial plan. We're good at this. We've been doing it a long time because many of these technology tools have been in existence for over 15 years. It's the creativity of finding how to leverage that within a cycle. How is my department going to be improved as a result of this is what we are good at. And then finally, when we got involved with this IPM, I said to the team to begin with, we need to be able to implement this in a very quick way so that our clients get a quick return on their investment by leveraging the AI. So we have a really refined process on picking and choosing where to implement it and how to do that effectively. That's our value to investment. And arguably we've been told we're the best at doing that. So we're excited to share that with you. Now, what is IPM? Well, IPM, as I said before, is Oracle's term for this portfolio of AI capabilities. So Oracle has developed dozens of AI capabilities embedded in the product that you own if you own Oracle. And what you do is you configure those capabilities. You already own them. The only thing you have to do is configure them. We don't develop any scripting. We don't write code. We basically go in and configure it. So there are three primary capabilities that Oracle has developed. Number one, very important, are predictions, right? So there's two classifications of predictions you can do from an AI perspective within Oracle. The first is a driver-based machine learning model that basically takes independent variables like pricing decisions, trade promotions, marketing events, all those kind of independent variables and predicts, let's say, units sold. That's one way of predicting. The other way is the system evaluates the performance, historical performance, and does a projection. Those two ways of doing those predictions. These are really important and really valuable. The second category relates to analytics. Oracle, as I'm going to show you in a few minutes, has a very robust way of finding exceptions from targeted performance. That's finding the needle in the haystack without getting into Excel and drilling down and doing ad hoc analysis. It's delivered for you. In addition to that, they have what's called a detailed analytical package. So once you find a variance, you're going to be able to go drill into that variance and have a host of metrics the analyst will be able to look at to evaluate why that variance exists. Then finally, from a reporting perspective, you're going to be able to generate reports and utilize Gen AI to search the database and automatically populate a report with an explanation of what that variance is, because typically you just have a variance. So these are three major categories you're going to see in a few minutes. These are powerful tools, and you're going to see it in the valuation of a submitted financial plan when we get into the application. So when I looked at my analysts that were reported to me, and when we talked to analysts across the world, we basically find that, let's say 80% of the time, the 80% of financial analyst time is spent data manipulation, bringing data together in a pivot table of some sort in multiple spreadsheets, or analyzing it. That means drilling down, doing ad hoc analysis, looking for that important factor driving performance versus what was expected. And very little time spent in financial engineering. How do we develop investments, or how do we support the investment analysis of opportunities within the organization? How do we collaborate with our business partners to help them make the right decision on what promotional activity is valuable and which are not? This is where we currently see analysts spending their time. Now, when you embed or you integrate AI in these capabilities, what you're going to find is that you're going to shrink the amount of time that an analyst spends analyzing data, meaning searching for that needle in the haystack. You're going to eliminate the need to do ad hoc analysis, what's currently done for the most part, and data manipulation. Oracle's delivered AI capabilities that will give the analyst the needle in the haystack immediately. And I'm anxious to show you how that is done. What does that do for you? Well, it creates a lot of capacity within your FP&A function. What you do with that capacity is totally up to you. You can have your finance team focus more on financial engineering, business collaboration, or you can increase the depth of analysis that you do right now from a financial perspective. Because when I was leading the global planning team at Nike, we had about 3 hours to evaluate the entire globe from a financial perspective, and the level of depth that we went into was minimal. Here, you're going to go to the lowest level of depth. And so what does that mean to you? It means that we believe you're going to save 100 days per analyst in your organization by leveraging these AI tools. And you'll see this as we go into the demo itself. And save 45% of the time. That's the excess capacity. Why? Because you're generating accurate forecasts. You automate performance analysis. That analysis that I was talking about, where you do ad hoc analysis, it's all going to be automated. Elimination of ad hoc analysis. And it equips the finance leaders, the analysts, with actionable insights. This is what's going to happen as we implement these tools I'm about to show you. Okay, next question. Do you fully understand the capabilities and impact of Oracle's IPM product? Super excited to show you this.
All right, we're at 79%, 80. I'll give it just another moment here for answers on the second polling question.
Pretty much expected, right? So 70% of the people, or the 100 people that are on the phone call, have a limited knowledge of, or no knowledge of IPM, Oracle's IPM AI capabilities. And what we're trying to do here is to just give you a sense of the capability in the presentation. And the next part of the presentation will actually be going into the tool itself, right? It's just one use case of dozens of use cases that we've been able to implement at our clients leveraging IPM or Oracle's AI capabilities. Okay, so we're going to head into the presentation. Before we do that, let me just give you an idea of what to expect. So we're going to demonstrate these AI capabilities by showing you how we can integrate AI into each of the activities in the process of evaluating a plan or forecast. Okay. There are going to be three participants in this exercise. The finance director that has overall P&L responsibility, a financial analyst that reports to the director that is primarily involved in evaluating a unit sold forecast delivered by the marketing executive, marketing director. Now, this process flow basically has the individual activities in boxes. And you'll notice that in the top right-hand corner, the legend. So anything in a light blue box represents activities in the evaluation of submitted forecast that are enhanced by AI. We've added the AI activity into something that exists. Anything in a dark blue box represents brand new activities that are at the disposal of the finance team that they didn't have before. And so what I'm going to do is step you through this process and show you the value and how much time is going to be saved as a result of leveraging these tools. So I'm going to back out of this, exit this. I'm going to stop sharing my screen because I'm going to bring up the application. So give me just a minute. Okay. Mitch, how are we doing on time? Seems like we're doing all right.
I think we're pacing along well, just
Excellent.
under halfway through.
Yeah. All right. Okay, so I am going to share my other monitor. And I'm going to bring up the deck. So let me just flip. There we go. Hang on just a second. Mitch, can you see my screen?
I see you. I don't see what you're sharing here yet.
Okay.
Okay.
Come
Yep.
on.
I see the screen now with the demonstration and the deck on the top right.
Yeah, so this, from my perspective, having spent most of my career in FP&A, this is where where the value really hits the road here. I mean, I could talk all day about our models being better at predicting the financial future than the planners themselves, which is true. 99 times out of 10, we're better. Our machine learning models are better doing that. But what's really important, what the clients have said to me is, great, I understand that value, but I want to know how it affects my team. How can I drive value in my team? And that's what this part of the presentation is about. So if you have any questions, send them off to Mitch. Mitch, what do we do? Do we do it in the comment section? The questions?
We have a Q&A portion of the webinar. It should be at the bottom of the screen with a text box and a question mark inside of it. Below it says Q&A. We got one question here, Linda, if you want to.
Sure, go ahead.
Now, cool. So we have a question. It says, is this a different module of PBCS?
Well, the AI capabilities that are embedded in Oracle EPM come with the enterprise license of the product. So if you have the enterprise license, all these capabilities I'm about to talk about are already there. And what you do is contract with us and we help you implement or configure those capabilities so you can start using it. So you already own all this stuff. So utilizing is key. All right. Without any further ado, let's talk about how AI can improve the financial planning of an organization. So again, we're starting with the director of finance. A financial analyst is going to do all the analysis. Out of the box, what you're able to do is have a brand new set of activities and give them to a finance team, what I call pre-plan activities. Previously, when we developed our targets, we would send it to the business unit, and then we would wait until the very last minute. Everybody waited at the end and submitted their plan 5 o'clock at night on Thursday or something like that. We had from 5 o'clock at night until the next morning, 8 o'clock, to come up with an evaluation of the financial plan submitted. That means how much risk is embedded in the financial plan. That's what my team had. What with AI, with IPM, we now have a bunch of activities that can now be engaged, you can now engage in before the plan is even submitted. And that's what we're going to start talking about. So let's begin. First thing we're going to talk about is the ability to generate an AI generated financial plan. So that means that with Oracle EPM, you're able to develop a financial plan at the lowest level of all your data set. You're no longer doing a high level financial plan at the corporate planning level for high level forecast. You're actually going to the lowest level at the same level that the marketing director is planning their information. What that allows you to do is have a more focused conversation with the marketing director, and these activities are going to prepare you to do that. Okay, so let's start. Let's go into the application. All right, let's start here. Now, before we start running the AI driven models, what you'll notice here is a typical financial statement that a financial planning starts with. They have the actuals for FY24. This is the P&L. The director would have this because they're at the top of the house. You have an IPM prediction line. That's a new capability. You're waiting for the FY25 plan, and then you have a bunch of variances, right? This is where you generally start a financial planning process. With Oracle EPM, you now have the capability. I'm going to go to the next step to run a job right here. And what that job does, and I'm going to run it right live. What's happening behind the scenes is Oracle has developed a methodology, automatic methodology, where at the lowest level of your data, it is analyzing the historical performance. It is filling in any empty values that may exist so that the model works properly. And it's evaluating all that historical data at the lowest level and producing a machine learning model that does a prediction for the whole year at the lowest of your data. It evaluates every single intersection across dozens of AI-related models and picks it for you. You don't have to do anything. They've automated the entire process of generating a financial plan at the lowest level of your data, utilizing artificial intelligence with sophisticated models like ARIMA or Profit. You can use driver-based planning where you have marketing spend, trade spend, marketing events, price reductions, and it will do a prediction for you. That's automatically done. So as you can see, I just ran that process and it created an entire financial plan from an AI perspective, which is based essentially on historical performance. So now we have a tool in finance that allows us to say to ourselves, if steady state occurs, if nothing changes within the business, this is what we're expecting to see. Okay? So I'm running the report that the director would start with. Now, there's a few things I want to point it out. Number one, this is a comparison against 24 actuals. So it's a year-over-year change report, AI versus the prior year. And what this is telling us is that from a units perspective, we anticipate a degradation in the amount of units sold or a decrease in units sold from 180,000 units to 188,000 units, a decrease of 1,500 units, right? But not only that, because EPM has Gen AI embedded in it, this report automatically goes through the entire deviation, this amount right here, searches the entire database and highlights the major variances. Now, that activity alone would have taken an analyst hours to do. But with Gen AI, you're able to enable it through a report and it highlights a deviation in what's represented by this 1.5. That's something we did not have before, right? And what we see here is that the Sentinel standard notebook is expected to have a decrease in units sold by 800,000. Okay. Now, great information. Let's take a look at it from an analyst perspective. If I'm the analyst analyzing the units sold, I typically have a report that is at a lower level. What you'll see in this report are all the different products. So leveraging Gen AI, I can see that we expect to see a decrease of 800,000 units. And I know exactly where that is. It's coming from the mid-Atlantic. Those are the algorithms producing a prediction based on historical trends. Okay. And at the point where we are right now is right here. We now, from a finance perspective, understand where the numbers should land. Meaning, when we get a plan submitted by the planner, we're expecting a decrease in Sentinel standard notebook of about 800,000 units because our trend has been down. So we're now in a position to evaluate the submitted plan as opposed to waiting till that submitted plan is delivered and identifying a variance and then finding out what the difference is. Here, we know exactly where what should happen down to the regional level, the Mid-Atlantic region. Okay, so now the director of marketing submits the financial plan. There's no AI involved there. Let's just assume that they're using a traditional process. The finance team is grounded in what they expect to occur because we have those models that have delivered a plan of, let's say, 42,000 units for the Sentinel standard notebook. Now, what does the director see? So if you move forward, I'm going to skip through here. Now, the plan was submitted. We have an understanding of how the year over year is expected to be with the AI models. And now we've got delivered a submitted financial plan. Here's where the power comes in. Oops, sorry. We're going to just skip that. Oop. Oop, okay, sorry. So the plan was submitted. Now, typically, when a plan is submitted, all you have is data. You have columns of data. You have columns of variances. You have no idea. The director would not even know where to begin to look for why you have 19,000 unit difference at growth, which is a good point. So now the director opens this report with Gen AI enabled, and they not only have those columns of information identifying a variance, but it identifies the specific product that's causing that variance. Now, if you recall, previously when we did our prediction and compared it to actuals, we were expecting a decrease year over year because that's what the trend was, especially with the Sentinel product. However, the Sentinel standard notebook is showing growth of 9,000 units. Now, we have that knowledge. We need to understand why, because we're not predicting that, right? So, but we know where the growth is. The director knows. So the director is going to rely on the financial analyst and all the AI capabilities to evaluate that. And so if we drop down into the financial analyst report, the financial analyst walks in the day and runs this report. And this report is going to tell the analyst specifically by product where the variance is occurring. So you'll notice here, our prediction was 42,000 units based on historical trends. The marketing director delivered 50,000 units. That's a growth as opposed to what we have predicted is a decrease in revenue. And not only that, we know specifically the region that is occurring in. Again, no one did ad hoc analysis. This is all generated by AI. It's searching the database, elevating the conversation, and it allows the analyst to specifically identify where the variance is occurring. That's powerful stuff. But it gets even better. Not only do you have this capability in the reports, the next step is to analyze each of these variants from a financial analyst perspective. So I'm going to take and copy that. So here's where we were. We got all these reports. We have a lot more detail. We did no ad hoc analysis. AI has delivered exactly where we should focus our attention. The next step in the process is exceptionally important. Oracle has embedded AI capabilities to show you all the deviations from targeted performance at the lowest level. And that's what we're going to look at next. So the analyst clicks on this little button right here, and what's presented are all the deviations at the lowest level of data. So remember, because our financial models are at the lowest level, we now can talk to the marketing director at the same level that they're planning. This is an exception list that can be sorted by priority, impact, value, percent difference, right? And you can filter it in a variety of ways. No ad hoc analysis. It's finding the needle in the haystack. And so what I did is I took a copy at the previous report of the product that I'm concerned about, the Sentinel notebook. And I click on that instantly. The whole report, which had thousands of deviations, filtered down to the Sentinel standard notebook. And it highlights every single variance. And as you saw in the Gen AI generated report, the Mid-Atlantic Sentinel standard notebook shows predicted units. That is, the AI models are 20%, 27% lower than forecast immediately. It's taking me more time to describe what we're doing than it actually takes to run the models and do the analysis. So not only do you have a list of all the different products and the variances, and you can pick the ones that are important, like you'd highlight these two guys and focus on that. You can then do it another level, and what's happening next is you're going from the exception report, you're going into what we're calling the detailed analytical package. For every variance, all you have to do is click on the variance, and what's presented to you is a whole package of information the analyst can then analyze or review and begin their analysis. Right, so let's do that. So here, we talked about the Mid-Atlantic Sentinel standard product. You click on this, and what you're presented with, let me make the screen a little bit short, is all this detail. This is the Mid-Atlantic forecast versus a prediction. So what you see here are the actuals. The red line represents our AI prediction based on historical performance. You notice that the trends are embedded in that. There's a slight decline, which we expected. But then you also notice what was submitted by the marketing director in the green line. Instantly, you have this information available without talking to anybody. This grounds the financial analysts in the understanding of why there's a variance, right? So we could see that the analyst could make a note that I see in the back half of the year that you have an increase. Where is that coming from? So the analyst is building the knowledge to have a conversation with the marketing director at the lowest level of detail. It's no longer, I see that Sentinel product is off, not knowing the geographic region, not knowing why it's off. Here, you just open this up and immediately you're presented with a visual. Additionally, you're also presented with AI-generated commentary. Here you can see that the forecast or the plan submitted by the planner was 8.3 thousand units, and you have 6,000 units, and there's a deviation. It doesn't stop there. Additionally, there's a host of metrics that are automatically delivered to the analyst to really understand the effects of this deviation. The 73% represents the fact that on a month-to-month basis, there's a lot of variability between what we expected and what was delivered by the marketing director. That's a big percent. You'll have the information with regard to how many units are off on an annual basis. You were able to set thresholds. You were able to identify how risky this forecast is. And what the system does is when you run those models, they produce best case, worst case, and base case. And it evaluates the ability of the forecast to deliver what they say they're going to deliver, the riskiness. So it assesses the risks. And so in this case, there's a lot of risk embedded in this. All this information is delivered without ad hoc analysis, without graphs in Excel, et cetera, et cetera. So now the analyst is aware that we have an issue here. So what can be done here? Well, this comment tab right here, the analyst can go in and say, okay, let's go down here and say, Frank, who's a marketing person. And I can tag myself to follow up with Frank. And then I can type a message to Frank. Frank, we see an increase in the back half of the year. Please explain rationale, right? Right in the detail analytical package, you're messaging the people that are planning this information. Okay? So when we send that, we're sending that to Frank. Now let's go into Frank's perspective. So Frank here Frank is in his EPM site and goes into that exception list. And what Frank is presented with is a little button right here that says My Insights. Frank doesn't care about all the products. In fact, you could actually put security on the exception list so that Frank only sees their products. However, Frank has a question that's being asked by the finance team. And if you click on Insights, it takes you directly to the exception or the deviation that the financial analyst was concerned about, all within Oracle EPM, all within that analytical package. And as a reminder, Frank can go into the analytical package himself and take a look at what he actually submitted in the forecast. And again, he sees what he submitted, so he responds to that. So comments. So tags Linda. Linda. This is due to new market in Atlanta. It's actually where I live. Okay. Submits that. Now, the financial analyst has already gone on to some other things. Let's get back to the exception list. And let's get rid of Sentinel Notebook filter. Now, what the analyst does is they have tagged that question as follow-up. And it takes you right to that message. They will see what the marketing director, I'll lose my mouse here for a second. Oh, there it goes. Said, right? So Frank said, we see the increase due to this is due to Atlanta. Copy and paste here. Has the information available. Cancel. So what have we done? We've gone from an exception list that gives you all the exception lists, all the exceptions. We filtered it. We went into the detail analytical package for that exception. We messaged the planner. The planner opened that same analytical package, reminds them of what they forecasted, and then messaged back to the financial analysts the reason for that change. And then finally, what the analyst could do is go to the director's P&L that we showed earlier. Hang on a second. Yeah, the system's slowing down. There you go. Sorry. The analyst can then copy and paste that commentary into the director of FP&A's report and simply copy and paste and say, Sentinel, it's not even spelled right, due to expansion in the Atlanta market. Done. So when the director of FP&A opens this report again, all that work has been done. In addition to that, if the director of FP&A wants to go themselves and look at the exception, they can go in this follow-up list and they can see the conversation that has occurred between their analyst and the marketing director. And that completes the cycle right there. So every one of these activities, we've shrunken the amount of time. Now, it took me a half hour to describe that. It takes 2 minutes to do what I just did in a half hour when you're trained and then utilizing these tools. Any questions? Okay, that's what we had to show. That's just one use case, one of many use cases on how to embed AI into the FP&A function. Oops. So let's go back. And so where do you start, right? So obviously you have to start at a certain point. You can't dive in feet first into implementing all these capabilities. We generally advise our clients to start with a pilot. And the reason why that's important is you want to understand these capabilities before you start expanding the breadth of people involved with AI capabilities. So what we can do is we can come in 6 weeks, utilizing your data, replicate everything I just showed you in the tool itself. And that in that 6 weeks, we will develop machine learning models that on your data, and I guarantee you that 9 times out of 10, our models are going to perform better than the actual people submitting the financial forecast. Then once you have a small group of finance people, usually corporate planning, comfortable with it, you start expanding it to the other FP&A teams in your organization, like the EMEA team, the Asia team, et cetera, and you just keep broadening the scope to the point where you get, as a starting point of your baseline plan, even the planners start to use the AI models. And that's what we have for you today. I think there's one more slide. Mitch?
Linda, could you maximize your screen for the last slide just for a moment, please?
Yes. This one.
Perfect. Yep. See it there for.
Okay. Can I go for it?
Yep.
All right. So any questions? As you can tell, I'm very passionate about it. I've been doing it for 4 years. I see value. I used to be a financial planning leader. I know we can drive value in an organization. Mitch, do we have any questions to answer?
We do have quite a few questions. I'm not sure if you're able to see on your end if you want to prioritize any, but I'm
Uh,
happy to read some out here if you prefer.
let me see. How do I see it? See the, is it in
Yeah,
the chat?
yeah, I think it's the bottom of your screen should be like Q&A with
There
the,
they are.
yep.
Okay, great. And can you see the questions here? Let's see. You can't see my screen, can you? With the
I can
questions?
see the slide, but we can't see
You can't see
the
the questions.
Q&A.
Right.
Yep.
All right.
Okay.
Great. Can you help me on any use cases using AI from freeform PBS? Absolutely, we can definitely help you with that. Look at from the perspective of AI, data is data. If it's a database, we can do a lot of these things. Some of the things you can't do, but from the perspective of developing an AI generated financial plan, absolutely. Real world use case. Is this a real? They ask real world use cases. This is a real world use case. We've had clients use what I just described to evaluate a financial plan. How can we evaluate the accuracy of prediction generated by AI compared to the module specific forecast in ePPCS? Are there any mathematical methods, graphical techniques that can be used to analyze? Absolutely. So our models, we go through what we call back testing process, where we take, as an example, 3 years of data. We reserve the last year as the test period, and we train our models on the first 2 years. The models are trained, the algorithms picked automatically by Oracle. We do a projection. We compare our projection against the actuals that we held aside for the last year, and we calculate how well the models did themselves, and then we calculate how we did versus what the planner was over the same period. So yes, there's a way to do that. What challenge or bugs and inconsistencies do you encounter when running advanced predictions? The only challenge with advanced predictions, it takes a bit longer because the algorithms go off to a different product within the Oracle and then come back. So that time going off, come back is a little bit longer than we wish to right now. Um, can you show what setting is used for this prediction? There's a variety of settings. We can certainly come in and help you configure the predictions. No problem with that. We've been doing this since 2021. It's not that difficult, but there are some nuances that we bring to the table as a result of our experience. Um, Will it be working in an existing application, or do you have to create a new application? You do not have to create a new application. We basically take the application you've already implemented. We come in there and we do an analysis on the processes that you want to automate and the things that are high value, and we configure the AI capabilities to meet those high value questions or actually high value activities that need automation up front, and then we give you a roadmap. Is there any support for IPM in data exchange capabilities? Yes, of course, but we don't use those necessarily. I'd have to understand a little bit more about what you're talking about with data exchange. Maybe you're talking about the different modules feeding a different cube. If that's the case, yes, we can do that. While running insights, does IPM use univariate engine or multivariate engine? Well, the insights capability or the exception list or analytical package that I described is actually not running any of those models. The insight basically searches the database and compares something to something else. In the case I described, we ran the univariate and multivariate models, came up with a financial prediction for that year. Then Insights, which is the analytical tool, searches the database, elevates all the variances into that exception list, and they drill down into the analytical package that gives you a lot more data. So the engine or the models are not being run during that process. How many years of data do you need to run analysis? Well, that comes down to whether it depends on the number of periods or years you're predicting. From a data science perspective, you generally want to have twice as many periods used to develop the models that you are predicting. So if you're doing a full year projection, which we did in this example, we use 2 years of historical data. And what that does is it picks up any seasonality and cyclicality within a product and then models it forward, as you saw when I showed you that example. Those graphs I was showing you were live. Those were on data sets that we had in the application. Do you have examples of advanced predictions? So absolutely. This is a powerful tool that recently came out. Just so everybody is aware, advanced predictions basically is the driver-based predictions that are produced with the machine learning models. And what that means is you take independent variables like price changes, promotions, marketing events, even external variables like GDP, and you predict a dependent variable like units sold. So what this system does basically is it analyzes those independent variables and develops a relationship between units sold. So as the price goes up or down, it looks to see if there's a relationship to price going up or down and the units that are sold. So it looks through history and then does a projection. So, and a good example that we used at one of our clients was where the marketing group submitted a change in the level of trade promotions for a product, meaning increase the promotions. And along with it, they provided what they expected the cases sold to be. We ran our algorithms, and our algorithms evaluated trade promotions historically compared to what volume changed, and we came up with our own prediction. And what we found was that the units they were predicting based on the incremental spend was not enough. They were underperforming in what they submitted. And therefore, that gave the finance team the information to say, hey, historically, if you spent this much more money, we should see an increase in the units sold by X. But you're only showing it by 2X, but you're only showing 1X. So why is the performance of these trade promotions going down? So that's a great use case that we came up with using advanced predictions, real life use case. Is there something that has to be done to generate a model? Well, there's a bunch of configuration. And so, again, with our experience, uh, this is not something that if you've not done this for years, that we encourage you to do yourself. Do not run these models with auto selected. There's things that we've learned that allow us to develop machine learning models better than just picking the out of the box auto detection basis. So we have a lot of IP around how to best predict those, how to best pick the models. We've built capabilities on top of what Oracle has to do the evaluation. So I wouldn't encourage you to do it on your own. You will find, in many cases, we found that clients who try to do it on their own, the models don't perform that well because there's subtleties in the data science aspect of it that aren't picked up in the out-of-the-box auto-detect capabilities. Can it be used for forecasts for several years? Of course it can, maybe years. The further you get out, the less accurate it's going to be, obviously. But if you have a number of years and you have the history, you could definitely do that. In your implementation, do you bring your own model or AI models? We use extensively AI generated models. That includes the multivariate and the univariate models. Again, as I said earlier in the presentation, 9 times out of 10, the models we do with the out-of-the-box Oracle models beat what submitted in by the planners themselves. They perform extraordinarily well. So yes, we extensively use the Oracle models. We don't bring anything in. How long to build and implement IPM capabilities? How long to build, implement IPM or AI capabilities in existing freeform or customized PBCS? Well, it depends. And what we recommend is a pilot first. Take a subset of your data, get comfortable with the models, how they're performing. Basically, use your data to show you that we perform well. And then once you do that 6-week pilot, then we expand into increase the data set itself. So I'd start small, bring us in, do a 6-week pilot on your data so that you're not relying on what I'm saying as it relates to the performance. How are acquisition product mix accounted for? Well, that's a little bit of a more detailed conversation, right? So, how are product mix accounted for? Product mix is accounted for in the historical trends. So, if a product is seen
Hey,
in,
Linda,
yes,
I'm sorry to interject, but just notice we have about a moment here. Just
okay,
wanted to wrap up with some closing remarks for all of those still in attendance. We
fair
still
enough.
see almost everyone's still here. So just want to emphasize, thanks again so much for spending the full hour with us. We do really appreciate it. And just want to emphasize again, it's our job to, provide you with as much information as you need around this subject. And we would love to, discuss further and answer some of these questions with you on a further call. So with that, I'll launch just one more optional anonymous polling question for those here in attendance before we wrap up.
Happy to get on the call with anybody to go into a little bit more detail and answer any questions.
I do want to mention there are quite a few questions we weren't able to answer with the time we had today, but be on the lookout. We'll be sending follow-up emails with answers to all of those questions. So for those of you who didn't get your question answered, just be on the lookout for that answer. And as a reminder, right when you close the webinar, there'll be a survey, and that's where you'll decide, whether you'd like to see the recording or the deck, and we will send those out to you here as soon as possible. All right.
Thanks,
On
everyone.
the poll here. Thanks again so much, Linda, and thanks to everyone for attending. That's it for today's webinar.